Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen uses OP's credit card as revenge. My girlfriend went nuts with my credit card, so I disabled it. I'm male 26, and my girlfriend is 21. We've been together for 3 years. She moved in with me. She doesn't work, so yeah, she obviously doesn't pay anything. She goes to college full-time, which I'm fine with, and I provide her with her basic essentials, but I told her not to spend my money carelessly on stupid things. Just things that she needs for school or food or household things. Her parents also send her an additional $200 a month. Whenever we get in an argument, she goes nuts with my credit card. I got a bunch of charges on clothes, Bath & Body Works, Lululemon, Target, and a bunch of other shopping centers. She gets really mad whenever we have an argument, and she acts like a kid, and she feels better by spending my money on a bunch of stupid things. She returned half of the useless things she got that afternoon. This is literally how she blows off steam, by spending other people's money. She told me when she was in high school, she ordered $200 worth of Sephora items when she was mad at her parents. I told her to never do that to me, and she said she wouldn't, but she did anyways. I also got sick of this pattern, so I temporarily closed the credit card that she had access to, and that started a fight when she tried to buy Einsteins on her campus. She told me that I'm being unreasonable and unfair for cutting her off, and I'm mistreating her because I'm closing my credit card, which is under my own name. I warned her so many times to stop using my card on senseless purchases, especially when she's upset with me, and she didn't stop, so I felt like I had no other choice but to temporarily close my card. I don't think I'm overreacting. I don't think I'm being unreasonable, especially when I warned her about misusing my money. I don't think I'm wrong. Am I the jerk? You're not wrong for doing that. It sounds like she needs to stop feeling entitled to other people's money and actually start taking responsibility for her own actions. Also, who in their 20s is giving out their credit card information to their significant other? I've been in a committed 5-year relationship in my 30s, and I would never give someone access to my finances that I wasn't married to. Just an absolute recipe for disaster. Sounds like she needs a job, even if it's just part-time to pay for her own spending and food on the side. She needs to learn how to be responsible with money, her own money, not yours. You're not wrong. Also, cutoff shouldn't be temporary. She needs to get a part-time job, that way she can spend her own money when she's upset. She really has some nerve. Stop being a pushover. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
If she was smarter, she would have waited until they were married to start acting like this. That way the Redditors could be like, "It's not your money, you're married, it belongs to both of you."
I turned the tables on my ex-wife's attempt to make me back out last minute from coaching kids t-ball. About a year out from divorce, ex-wife has been acting petty and childish to say the least. Tries to make me look bad any attempt she gets. My young son played t-ball last year, and I volunteered to be the coach. Really enjoyed it, but my work responsibilities/schedule changed before the season, and I simply could not commit to do it again. I became good friends with the guy running the league and let him know before the sign-ups even started as a heads up. Was disappointed, but not much to do. What I was able to do was volunteer to get to the field super early Saturday before the game started to set them up. Chalk line the batter boxes, foul lines, put out bases, etc. 3 fields total, which he was extremely grateful for. A few weeks before the season was supposed to start, they were unfortunately short a couple coaches and were sending out some desperation emails to all of the parents. My ex knew my situation and apparently thought going onto the website and basically fraudulently volunteering me to coach would be a great way to inconvenience me, make me look bad by having to back out, etc. So she did just that. Buddy running the league called me, very confused. In order to register, you have to make a username and password. Username is just your email, so after a few minutes of looking through the registration, we worked out what happened, as her email was in the account name. Ultimately, he decided to put his kid on my son's team and be the coach on top of everything else he was doing. He was upset at my ex himself though, because this stunt could have set him back finding a legit coach if they needed to, possibly delaying the league. Here's where I come up with the petty revenge. He sends out the official email out to all of the parents of the league with the rosters and coaches for all 10 teams, except for our kid's team. Instead of listing himself, I tell him to list my ex, put her name, contact info, etc., and says to expect further info from each coach individually. She emails him back when she notices to point out the mistake, saying it should have been me instead, but he ignores it. He sends her all of the clearances coaches need to pass, asks for times she can pick up equipment, the whole 9 yards. After a couple of days, parents of the team apparently start emailing her asking for info on when the season starts and when practice will be and all of that. Eventually, he does reply back, playing dumb, telling her she's the one who volunteered as it was her username that registered, and knew it wasn't supposed to be me as he had spoken to me months earlier and knew I wasn't able to do it this year. Put her in an awkward spot because she either had to admit what she did or feign some BS ignorance and claim a miscommunication, which everyone knew was nonsense as we were divorced. After she flat out says she can't coach and she isn't sure what to tell him, he sends out another email to the entire league which says, "Due to the coach of our kid's team's name backing out at the very last minute, I have no choice but to take on coaching the team myself, on top of the rest of the responsibilities. Moving forward, we ask that coaches do not volunteer unless they plan on fulfilling that commitment." He didn't mention her by name, but everyone saw the rosters and knew he was talking about her. She texted me a few weeks later once the season started about how my buddy is a jerk for doing that to her due to a glitch in the registration software, as multiple people have approached and asked her not so nicely what happened, and she knows she's getting looks from people during the games. What a satisfying text it was to receive. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that his affair child is not welcome in our home, and if he wants custody, he will have to move out? My husband and I have been married for 9 years. In 2021, we found out my husband was being sued for child support. Turns out, my husband had an affair shortly after we were married. It nearly ended our marriage, but we went to counseling together and I agreed to stay in the marriage with the following provisions. My husband was to get a second job so that his child support payments did not affect our household budget and that at no point in time would I ever consider having a relationship with their kid. If he wanted to pursue one with them, fine, but I have absolutely zero interest in that. So my husband has been getting to know his kid over the past couple years, and recently my husband came to me and informed me that there was some sort of baby mama drama. Apparently, she has to self-surrender in May and is going to be incarcerated for 8 months. My husband told me that he needed to take custody while his affair partner is locked up. Otherwise, the kid would have to go to their grandparents, who basically live on the opposite coast from us. Their kid doesn't want to have to change schools or be so far away from their friends, dad and mom. She will be doing her time fairly local to us. So after my husband told me that, I got up and left the house. I went to the grocery store on the corner and grabbed a copy of our area's apartment guide, went back home and handed it to him. He asked if I was serious. I told him I still felt the same way I did 3 years ago. He said he didn't think that was fair considering the extenuating circumstances. I told him I don't care about the circumstances. His kid is not welcome in my home. If he wanted to take custody, I will grant him an amicable divorce, but I'm not changing my mind. I'm not taking care of some other chick's kid. Edit. For all the people concerned about what a whipcracker I am and making my poor husband work 2 jobs, he has never had a full-time job since we've been together. He works 2 part-time retail jobs now that adds up to 40 to 50 hours a week. He currently only has supervised visitation with his kid. They only see each other once or twice a month for a couple hours with a social worker present. And for those who seem to think that I need to be the one to file for divorce, no, I will not. I'm not the one who created this situation. If my husband wants to pursue custody, I've told him I will not fight it. I will grant him an amicable divorce and let him be on his way. However, I'm not going to waste my own time, energy, and money to do so. He's responsible for getting his own ducks in a row for the situation he created. That includes being the one to go through the headache of filing. The kid will always be there. Seems like you should cut your losses and move on from this relationship. Sad, but you will probably be happier in the long run. This marriage should have ended years ago. Why are you still with him? In no way do I think it's your responsibility to raise the kid, but it is his responsibility, and this poor kid didn't ask for any of it. The whole situation would be happier and healthier if y'all just split up. Am I the jerk for telling my sister I'm tired of her taking from me and acting like it's what I was born for? So I technically was born for her to take from. I'm a savior sibling, and that was the only reason my parents had a second kid. They were one and done with my sister, but when she was 2, she got sick, so they had me to save her. Growing up, I felt every bit of the lack of interest my parents had in me. I knew before I hit middle school that my parents had me for one reason only. Yet I saw them adore and spoil my sister and make sure she had everything. I grew up watching her grow up with devoted parents while I had none. Because of the way we were raised, my sister and I were never close. She was used to getting what she wanted and being spoiled. I was forgotten until she needed something, like blood. If I ever happened to have something she wanted, you bet my parents let her have it, and they had no time for me complaining about it. They had no time for me, period. I'm sure on some level they were grateful that I had fulfilled my purpose, but nobody will ever convince me that they love me. Now we're both in our 20s, and my sister has tried to have a relationship, but it's still a lot of her wanting her way and for me to pay for her, but she gets to choose where we go and what we do. I'm expected to give her food off my plate. She ignores when I bring up how our childhood wasn't perfect like she always talks about. She brings up how I wasn't present for stuff, and in the same sentence will talk about it being the best day. Eventually, I stopped saying yes, or if I did, I refused to pay and refused to go along with what she wanted, and we saw each other far less. I also heard from her far less, which to me said she didn't really want a sister. She just wanted the person she was used to getting whatever from. A couple of weeks ago, she showed up at my house, where I live with friends and our partners, and she told me that she needed a place to stay and attempted to invite herself in. She looked rough, so I told her she could get some food and something to drink, but she needed to stay somewhere else. I suggested she call our parents. She didn't want to go anywhere else and was trying to befriend my boyfriend and the other partners, since she knew my friends don't like her. I made it very clear and insisted she figure something else out. She told me I should be more willing to help her out, and why do I never want to do anything for her? I snapped at her saying that, and I told her I'm so tired of her taking from me and acting like it's what I was born to do. I told her our parents might have had me for that reason, but I'm more than that, and I never had a say in any of that, and if she wants to talk about things not being fair, then she should think more on that. She had a very explosive reaction and left. She said afterwards I suck for blaming her for our parents' actions. It just frustrated me because she doesn't acknowledge her own actions in that. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You weren't blaming her for your parents' actions. You were blaming her for her actions. She's spoiled and used to getting her way. The golden child can go stay with her parents. Am I the jerk for telling my stepsister I won't attend her baby shower? I, 26 female, have a stepsister who's 18. I have not seen her in many years. She was so young when I last saw her. My relationship with my mom, her stepmom, was never a good one. She was never a good parent to me, and when she decided to get married and settle down, while also not attempting to be a good mom to me, I made the decision to fight hard to get my dad to win custody of me, which he did when I was 13. My mom was supposed to go to therapy and classes before the courts attempted to try reunification therapy for us, but she never took those steps, so we never did the therapy together. And won't. I have zero desire to be part of her life. I had a relationship with her parents and siblings, though not a close one. I was included by them though, and would see my mom from a distance for a few years at occasional family gatherings. My stepsister would be there also, and over time, she became far closer to my maternal side than I was. My reason for not being very close to my maternal side is they would encourage me to give mom a chance, and they would try and talk me into taking on the role of big sister for her stepdaughter because they knew my mom had zero desire to have any kids at all and would not be having more, and apparently her stepdaughter struggled with not having siblings, so they wanted me to fill that gap for her. I wasn't interested then, and I'm not today. I don't hate her, but simply put, we are not family, and I really had little to do with anyone from my mom's side in a good 4 years. I received a digital invite to the baby shower 3 weeks ago, and I RSVP'd no. This was followed by another one, and followed by a message from my stepsister saying she wanted her baby's aunt to be there, and it followed another message begging me to change my mind, and then another invitation that she personalized to ask me to be there, and she told me not to bring a gift, just me, because I would be the real gift. I told her I was not interested again, and then I blocked her. But she followed me on another platform, and then she begged and pleaded with me to change my mind. She said it wasn't too late for us to be sisters, and for me to be her baby's aunt. I told her I won't attend her baby shower, and I won't change my mind just because she keeps asking or sending invites. She told me she doesn't understand why I hate her, and this interaction prompted contact from my maternal grandparents and they told me I shouldn't have been so cruel, and if I really had to let her down, I should have made it way softer. Am I the jerk? I'm curious why your stepsister is so fixated on having a relationship with you. It's not like you were around much, doted on her, and then disappeared. Why is it so important to family that you fulfill this person's fantasy of what his sister is like? It seems like stepsister built up this relationship in her mind without any fact or even time spent together. Like teens are fixated on famous people and insist their idols reciprocate the relationship. You seem to have no more relationship with stepsister than you have with checkout person at Target, and it fascinates me as to why your sister insists to have a relationship with you. Stepsister needs therapy to realize you do not owe her a relationship. Not the jerk. No is a full sentence. The constant messages are too much. However, it seems like this girl needs an answer and hasn't really done anything ever to not deserve one. Something like, I wish you well and all the best with your pregnancy. However, I don't want a relationship with this part of the family, and this includes you. I have my reasons for this, which I ask you to respect. If she doesn't drop it after that, you've done the best you can and not been the jerk. The block button is your friend. Same for the family members that enable. No jerks here. That girl simply wants a closer connection with you. You aren't obligated to provide it. In my opinion, you could be a little more gentle with her and provide her with an explanation as to why you're not interested to pursue a more personal relationship with her. I'm kind of 50-50 on this. You're not the jerk because you made it clear you don't want to go. However, you are the jerk because you're taking out your anger on her, and it should be directed at your mom. Your stepsister didn't ask for your mom to ignore you and treat you that way. She didn't ask your mom to be her mom. I really think you should go to therapy on your own to help you move on. Am I the jerk for refusing to pick my daughter up and instead leaving her to get lectured by her dad? My daughter Kelly's extracurricular was hosting an event that she wanted to volunteer for. The plan was that Kelly would stay for the full weekend to do the event. She would go on a bus to the building where the extracurricular is usually hosted, then I would pick her up from there since it's only a 20-minute drive from home. It was over 5 hours of driving. It took 3 hours to get there, plus another 2 hours just to sit in traffic at the car line for the event. Traffic was not nearly as bad on the return trip, luckily. My younger daughter and I were having dinner an hour away from home when I got a call from Kelly asking to come home. Nothing bad had happened. Kelly just said she didn't like the things they were having her do, carrying boxes and supplies, manning the check-in booth, etc. She knew beforehand that she would be sleeping on a cot and a bunch of the others would be in the same area, but claimed she didn't realize what that was actually like until now and she wanted to go home. I told Kelly no, we were already hours away. Kelly started saying it wouldn't be as bad as if we were already home, and that the traffic probably wouldn't be as bad as it was earlier to get to the event. I again told Kelly no, and that frankly, her asking this was extremely inconsiderate to us in our time. There was a convention that her sister wanted to go to, but had to turn down because I had no one to take her, and Kelly promised this event was important to her. Kelly kept begging me to pick her up. I told her no and suggested she ask her dad, David, if he's willing to drive out and pick her up. Kelly eventually did end up calling David and claims that he lectured her for the entire 2 hours that he was driving them home. Kelly told her grandmother, who told me that Kelly's actions were inconsiderate. But I know Kelly and David don't get along right now, and I should have gone to get Kelly since I was closer than I would have been at home, and a 2-hour lecture was just excessive on David's end. I agree David's lecture was excessive, but Kelly could also take it away as an important lesson that when you ask other people to accommodate you for a commitment and end up breaking said commitment, people are naturally going to be upset with you. Besides, it wasn't as if Kelly was stranded in the middle of nowhere or in a bad situation. She was perfectly safe at the event. She could have either rode out the weekend or dealt with the lecture from David. I know a typical response in this situation is usually to say my mother shouldn't have any input because she isn't Kelly's parent, but she does help with the girls, and it wouldn't be right to say she isn't entitled to some input considering she has stepped up and gone out of her way as a grandparent to help in that regard. I'm looking for other perspectives because I'm still unsure of whether I should consider my mother's words and apologize to Kelly. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You gave her a choice. She could either honor the commitment she made, or if it was truly that terrible, get picked up by her father, who she knows she doesn't get along with. She decided that she'd rather inconvenience someone else and get out of a commitment that you and her sister already sacrificed for because, oh no, I didn't know that they'd actually expect volunteers to volunteer. Then she was upset that people rightfully felt inconvenienced. This is silly. How old is she? You didn't say, and it's unlikely to change my verdict, but I'm curious. I used to volunteer almost 40 hours a week for stuff when I was in high school, and those are some of my fondest memories. I'd have told her, tough luck, kiddo, you're seeing it through. So you're already being more lenient than I would. I've done much harder volunteering and slept under much worse arrangements than OP's daughter when I was much younger than 16, and not once did I ever think of calling my parents to pick me up. Sometimes you just have to suck it up, and if you can't, then good luck in the real world. She replied in another post, she's 16. All your points stand as valid. Not the jerk. I'm pretty confused as to why anyone had to pick her up. She was safe and had made a commitment. So you just left the group short to volunteer for the weekend? That kind of sucks. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter? Please let us know.
I guess I'm in the minority here, but if my kid calls me and tells me they're uncomfortable somewhere, I don't care how far it is, I'm gonna go pick them up.
Steal my Legos for your classroom? You'll be sorry. I had 8 large storage totes of Legos when I left home for college. Besides a few family heirlooms, I told them the only thing I wanted were my Legos. They could get rid of anything else. I even offered to come pick them up and store them with me while I was in college, so they weren't a burden. My mom said it was fine, she would keep them stored. Great. Fast forward probably 12-ish years, and I've got a 5-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter who are quickly approaching Lego age. My wife and I are buying a home, and it will have a decent-sized area upstairs above the garage that we intend to turn into the playroom. I was talking to my wife about my plans. I wanted to put in padded flooring, build a fort-style structure in one corner, maybe build into the crawl space, a tunnel-type system or something, and I wanted to make an area that would be dedicated to the Legos. My wife seemed a little cagey about the plans. It would cost a bit of money, set our expectations down, etc. I obviously didn't plan on anything happening overnight. A few weeks later, and we're getting ready to head to Easter at my mom's house. I tell my wife I want to take our truck as I planned on grabbing the Legos from her place and bringing them home, and my wife gets a little cagey again. I sense that she knows something, and she finally admits it. My mom took the Legos to her classroom. My mom's a middle school teacher, 6th to 8th grades, special education in our town, and my wife is an assistant in her classroom. I guess several years ago, my mom took the Legos to the classroom for the kids to play with. I told my wife I would just get the Legos from the class at the end of the school year. However, my wife thinks I should just let it go. Some of the kids really love the Legos, and they would have a hard time if they came in after a summer away, which is already pretty hard, change and whatnot, to find out that the Legos are gone. We talked about potentially buying some Legos from Craigslist for the kids to use, but I definitely wanted my Legos back. A lot of them tend to be older. Tons were my dad's Legos when he was growing up, so I definitely want those ones. At Easter, my sister got roped into the discussion with my wife and I, and she agreed with my wife. While we both enjoyed the Legos a lot as kids, I would be a jerk if I took my Legos back from the classroom. They both suggested starting a new collection for our kids so they can love and enjoy these ones as they grow up. But I just don't agree. Part of the reason why they were so special to me was because they were handed down to me and I got to add to them. I was hoping to be able to do that here. Would I be the jerk if I took my Legos back at the end of the year? Not the jerk. Your mom could have asked you first. Those were Legos started by your dad, so there's a sentimental value, and that's something you want to share with your kids, so it's only fair you take the Legos back. I honestly don't get these jerk parents who don't think their kids would want to pass on favorite toys to their own kids, their grandkids, one day. Not the jerk. Your mom and your sneaky wife can buy replacement Legos on Craigslist for her students, or ask the students' parents to each contribute a bunch of Lego, or both. They both were dishonest. They're your Legos, and you made it clear you wanted to keep them. Very clear. Zero wrong with wanting to keep something that was yours as a kid. Take all the Legos back at the end of the year. Inform your mom and your wife now so they can start looking for whatever replacements they need. Am I the jerk for helping my son avoid his family after his wife cheated? I don't really feel great about throwing this up on the internet, but everyone's upset with me, so this is what I've got. My son and his wife have been together for 6 years, and they have a 4-year-old daughter. They've had their problems every once in a while, but to me, it seemed like they always worked through it. I know he absolutely loves her, and I thought they were very close. But 3 days ago, my son came to my door at 10 at night, drunk, sick, and in complete tears. I guess she had been cheating on him for some time, and during an argument, she finally admitted it. He just fell apart. He could hardly breathe right. I cleaned him up and put him in bed, and that's about where he's been since. He looks sick, he won't eat. I've never seen him so upset. His wife and her family were calling us both repeatedly, but we just didn't deal with it at first. He was devastated. I wanted him to have a moment to gather himself. This morning, I bit the bullet and answered her call. She was angry he had walked out and left her with their daughter and said she just wanted to talk about this like adults. I told her that she could talk to him when he chose to contact her and that I think he'd want to work something out, but she needed to give him some space. She got more upset and I told her I wouldn't talk if she was going to throw a fit, so she hung up. I don't know what she told her family, but I've since gotten calls from her mom begging me not to let him leave her and their daughter. Her sister called to go off on me for protecting a deadbeat father. They're all freaking out. He isn't abandoning his family. His life has been turned on its head, and I want him to have some time to find his feet. It's just been 3 days. It's not like he's run away. But now everyone's angry at me for letting my son leave his daughter, which he absolutely adores his daughter. He'd never just up and leave. So am I the jerk for letting him stay with me to get away from his family? I know it leaves his wife in a tight spot, but it's been 3 days and she hardly works part-time. It's not like he's left her with an impossible task, and I absolutely intend to have my son deal with this, but I just can't see him feel like this, and I don't think he could have any meaningful conversation this way. What should I do? I'm not trying to let him hide from his responsibilities, but he's hurting and he needs time to breathe. Some additions for clarity. Of course, we've discussed the possibility that his daughter might not be biologically his, but he doesn't plan to abandon her regardless. He loves his daughter and would, despite anything. And as far as if her family knows the full story, I have no clue. I haven't even tried talking with them yet. Not the jerk. He isn't opting out on being a father. He's taking the time he needs to process information. He needs to get his crap together quick and go be a father again. He needs to divorce her, collect evidence, hire a lawyer, and get a DNA test done on his daughter. His wife has been cheating for some time. I would definitely double check. That's up to the dad. He doesn't have to do that. He could be fine with not knowing this part if he loves his daughter as is, and knowing would only change things for the negative. If he's able to put what he knows aside and not be plagued by the thought, what a saint. People have done this forever before DNA tests existed. Sometimes not knowing is the better choice. It's not up to anyone else to decide but the dad. You raise and love the kid for 4 years, and you know for sure that that's your kid. The DNA test can only tell you if they have your DNA. 4 years of being a parent, and you already know they're your kid. Not the jerk. I know I'll get downvoted for this, but I feel it needs to be said. If the kid turns out to not actually be his, he should not be obligated to pay child support to make up for his wife's cheating and another man's burden. It's sad how so many of you are claiming he should skip the DNA test and just provide for the kid no matter what. Like, no wonder there are so many wives who end up cheating, having kids with other men, then still expect their husbands to financially support their kids. Most of you crazies here are claiming this is what should happen and what would be the right thing for OP to do. Holy entitlement, Batman. I'm selling a family heirloom to pay for my destination wedding. My fiance, 38 female, and I, 39 male, are planning to get married this summer. We both want to have quite a lavish wedding at a winery in another state. The two of us agreed that it's the most important occasion in our lives, so we should make it as memorable as possible. We both have stable jobs and a good amount of savings, but it's not quite enough for the, admittedly ambitious, plans we have in our heads. My father passed in January, and in his will, he left me a very valuable, think 5 figures, family heirloom. I'm not much for big family traditions, so although it's a nice thing to have, I'm not massively attached to it. I have plenty of other good memories of my father, and I don't need a fancy heirloom to remember him by. My brother, who's 34, however, is a huge history nerd and is really attached to it. He was very upset by my father's decision in the will. The reason it went to me and not to him is that this has been traditionally passed down to firstborn sons. My fiance and I don't plan to have any kids, and I think he assumed, therefore, that he, or his kids, would be in line to get it if I were to pass away. After some discussion, my wife-to-be and I decided that we would like to sell this heirloom to pay for our wedding. My brother, who is also my best man, was furious when he found out and said he wanted nothing to do with the wedding anymore. He thinks my wife-to-be and I are behaving like spoiled brats. In addition, he's convinced my uncle and cousins not to come to the wedding either. With our parents having passed, this means that virtually none of my family will attend the wedding, which I'm really upset about. I think that since I legally inherited the heirloom, I can do what I want with it. I think he's just upset because I ruined his expectations of one day inheriting it. But since my uncle and cousins agree with him enough that they are not coming to the wedding, I'm not so sure I'm in the right. Am I the jerk? Technically, you can sell it because it's yours, but you're the jerk for caring more about a ridiculously lavish wedding that will break the bank than you do for your relationship with your brother or your dad's tradition. If your dad had known that you were going to sell it, he would have left it to your brother. I hope your lavish wedding is worth it to you. You're the jerk. If you sell the item, don't be surprised if it ruins your relationship with your brother forever. All for what? So you can brag about your wedding to friends while looking at pictures that don't include anyone on your side of the family? You're the jerk. Legally being able to do something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I doubt your dad would have given it to you if he knew you were going to sell it like it was nothing. Your brother didn't convince anyone to be mad at you or to not go. I bet he just told them, and they made those decisions mostly on their own. You probably should have thought about all of that before making such a selfish, self-centered decision. Not the jerk. Sorry, I don't get the whole family heirloom is the most important object in the entire world kind of thinking everyone has. If it's not something you're going to use or want to keep, get rid of it. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.